Hello YouTubers. Okay, just popping up a quick video. I've purchased this mower. The coil went on my old Mountfield, which I actually paid 30 quid for about 8 years ago. So I thought it'd be worth potentially looking around for something a bit better. This is a Hayter Harrier 41 inch electric start, so I think it's the Pro. These are retailing for, I don't know, £800 or £900 now, so I paid £70, on a bit of a punt and thought it was worthwhile. Um, it's actually not had too hard a life. It's just the guy was using it inappropriately. As it's got the roller on the back, he was actually putting it over really rough ground, and that basically destroyed the castings that hold the roller at the back and the gearbox in position and all that sort of stuff. Relatively cheap to replace, relatively easy to replace. So I just ordered some on eBay and I'll run you through what I've done so far. As I've already done a fair bit of work to it and don't want to undo it, I'll just run you through what I can. As you can see, that's the speed controller, the red there. So that's the speed that the roller turns, attaching to the gearbox. That's your main throttle. All the way forward as far as you can gives it a bit of choke, which is what I've tended to have done. And then pull it back, and it seems to start really well using that method. Pull start and it starts instantly. A little bit slower on the on the electric start. So that's the gearbox there, running back and forth. That's your dead man's handle, I think it's called. So if that's not pulled in, nothing will happen. The electric start won't work. You won't be able to pull start it. The rear bar engages the roller. So just a cable going on down through there. First up, all of the cables were really stiff, so any opening ends of cables that I could squirt penetrating fluid into, I did, and then left it for a few hours, squirted more and more in, just everywhere I could, just to try and loosen it up. As you can see, I think this is a pretty common problem. The little door hatch that sits over the back of the mower had actually broken. They tried to glue it, but it was useless. Picked one of those up from eBay for about 20 quid. No, sorry, about 16 quid. I mean, quite expensive for what it is, but as it's such a decent mower, I thought it was worth it. Where I was just pointing is where the spring should be sitting. That's sitting in my shed at the moment, just sitting safe. A couple of bolts gets that off. Down here, there's a bit of oxidization, the paint's coming off. I've actually ordered some Hayter paint, and I'll give it a bit of a spray up, smarten it up. But as it's an aluminium deck, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and it'll all turn out pretty well. As you can see from the front wheels, there isn't that much wear on that tread, so it definitely hasn't been used commercially, as far as I'm aware. Did an oil change, obviously, dead straightforward. The only slight pain is you have to tilt the mower. Battery, I think £16 on eBay. One of the terminals had actually fused to the battery, so as I do work on classic cars, I could just whip one out of my box and crimp it on. Again, brilliant to have that. Over here we've got the air filter cover. Really straightforward to change, not a problem. I mean, you can do everything on this mower with a screwdriver and a basic socket set. The two sizes seem to be 10mm and 8mm for pretty much all of the bolts. As you can see on here, if you didn't have one handy, a socket handy, you can just use a flathead screwdriver and that would get it off too. Really cheap to buy on eBay, this filter. I can't remember who it was made by. It's not a Briggs and Stratton. But the one that I took out of it was pretty grimy, so anything's going to be an improvement. And this one looks to be perfectly fine, and will do the job well. Spark plug, again, I just ordered an NGK replacement, probably about £3, really cheap, but made a big difference. Right, here are the castings I was on about. As it had been smacked about a bit at the back, these alloy castings are pretty delicate, you know, and can snap relatively easily. This side, so as you stand at the back of the mower, right hand side, really straightforward. 410016 Hayter number to replace. Now I'm afraid, as this has been put back together, it's not ideal, I know. This side is really straightforward. The lower section, in the upper section, you've got a couple of bolts that screw onto the deck, you know, the chassis of the mower. They're quite easy to get at, relatively simple. Just get your socket on that, pull them out. I think they're 10mm. And then underneath, you've got the. It looks a bit like a conrod setup. If you look back to the snapped one that I showed, you can actually see it's just a couple of bolts underneath that hold a piece on, that clamps round the roller piece at the back. So yeah, that side really straightforward, not a problem at all. Again, this casting had snapped at both of the points at the top of the casting. This one is item number, I'm going to zoom in on it in a second. So that's Hayter number 410002. As I mentioned earlier, this one is a little bit trickier to change, but still, you know, pretty simple. They've really designed these so you can adjust them. You can see there the casting sort of on the left, the shiny bit. There's one bolt that goes through that holds a bracket that holds the gearbox on the black thing there. Similar sort of like conrod type design there. Even though it's not a conrod, but it's similar to the way the conrod on you know, below piston's attached. That goes through the gearbox, which goes onto a chain inside that black cover, which then spins the roller. If you whip that cover off, you can see the chain in there. It's well worth giving it a grease. Now up here you can see that this bolt here, instead of just going straight into the chassis, actually attaches to a threaded nut under that little black cover there, which is on the height adjuster. Again at the front, so if you imagine that U shape that we saw, there's another nut and bolt set up there. This one is far trickier to get to. Before tackling this one, just do disconnect the spark plug, the HT lead there. I think it's 15mm on the bottom to release the blade there. As you notice, it changed shape. This disc here, as you tighten it, puts a bend on the blade and actually tensions it as well. This one's a bit rusty. It's not too bad. I'll probably give that a bit of a clean up with the DA sander and put a bit of fresh enamel hammerite type paint on it, just to smarten it up really and make sure that it survives. The blade was in really good shape. I don't think it's that old. I just ran the flap disc over it and put an edge back on it, but could maybe go over it again. But it seems to be cutting really well. you can see the boss there that the blade attaches to, and you'll see in a second actually that's where one of the belts attaches to as well. Right, make sure I've got the right size socket. These two bolts that hold the half of the plastic cover that goes under the deck, that one there is obviously not 10mm, that's an 8mm. Don't know if that's the same on all of them or if somebody's put a different bolt in there, but it's an 8mm top on it. So that one out. Pop it on there so I don't lose it as I normally do working on the grass. Just swapping over to a 10mm socket now and buzz that one off as well. The cover is held on. There's just a little sort of mounting area with a tab that slots through and another tab that goes through. And this, I mean, really handily. You don't have to take the whole cover off. It's just this sort of third that comes out, which then allows you to access that drive belt there that you can see onto the pulley, the V pulley wheel. Get a bit tight here. I'm just trying to find a decent angle to be able to film. Right, there we go. Start it again. There's the V pulley. Now, up behind that pulley, I was just pointing at a bolt, and hopefully I'll point it again in a second. Yeah, that bolt just in behind there. If you disconnect that, take that one off. It is kind of a bit of a sprung system, so it's a little bit of a fiddle to get it back on, but nothing too bad. Release that, and the pulley wheel will then come down. The reason you want this pulley wheel to come down is to give you access to that bolt in order to be able to release the old casting and put your new one in. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. I've picked up loads of great tips from people on YouTube, so thought I'd run you through a couple of the bits and pieces that I've been doing. Next job on this is to give it a little bit of a sand down, get rid of the oxidisation on the sides, and just stick a bit of paint on it. That's probably just about as far as I'll take it because, I mean, let's face it, it's just an old mower. Anyway, thanks for watching, and again, hope it might have been helpful in some way.